Sit back and relax while you listen to the Train Kickers podcast. I'm Dave with my friend Dan. We plan to inform and entertain you on everything miniature wargame related. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to go over what we've been doing, a bit of the news that's been going on lately, and then what should have been done in episode one, a bit of discussion of who we are and why you might be listening to us. Now we'll go on to the show. Hey, Dan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, Dave. I'm doing fine. As Dave introduced, I'm Dan. I'm just part of the podcast. Miniature wargaming for pretty much all my life. So, yeah. So, what you working on, Dave?
So last week so we discussed the other week the pre-orders that they had done for some of the Oryx stuff for Age of Sigmar. They actually had some of them come out. I was able to get 2 units of the Beast Skewer boys, so I built those. I'm starting to paint those. They're a nice kit. There's several
I hear the
spots where
hesitation.
it looks great. There's a lot going on in that base, which is not a problem. But luckily, it's they're all snap fit, but obviously you can cut some pieces out so they fit better. But there's essentially sort of 3 distinct locations I put them in. Like they kind of when they go onto the base, there's the main guy actually holding the giant bow. There's a little Hobgrot off to the side holding an axe. There's another set of Hobgrots that are holding essentially the ammunition. Luckily, so they're not attached to the base because I had to paint them in pieces because it was just very tough to even get it primed well. I tried stupidly when they were all together at first. That didn't work. Had to pull them all apart to do it. But it's a very nice kit. I do like it. Went together very, very quickly. I picked up one of those the Break-a-Boss, but on the Troggoth, but I have yet to actually work on him. My hope is maybe for end of the week, if possible, to get the Killbows at least done enough that I can, take them to play with and feel good about it.
Yeah, and I mean, are you using what are they called? Oh Lord, contrast paints. Are you thinking of using mostly contrast paints?
Yes, depending on the piece. So I do all the woods in contrast paints. They have the snakebite leather I'm using for my lighter brown woods.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing the I want to say it's called the weird wood. It's the much darker tone. It looks almost black, but it comes out of very dark wood. I use that for large wood pieces, where the lighter one is for usually the smaller ones. I'll use it for ropes and cables and all.
Nice.
All Hobgrots are being done in the contrast darker yellow. I do not recall the name, and I don't have it in front of me on my paint.
You're doing them yellow. You're not doing them like a off color green. Well, I know on the website there.
So the Hobgrot on the Killbow, they did him as maybe he's actually supposed to be a Gretchen or something like that, but he's a bit of a green. The normal Hobgrot color is yellow, and I kind of just like the idea of big boys are green and small boys are yellow.
That's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but like their skin, for the actual Oryx, those know the clothing and all know. I am still doing it for any of the shields that come in sort of their clan colors. I'm using either a red, a yellow, or a blue because I'm going to do essentially squads of each. That way I have some variety to the colors. So I'm about half of it is being done in contrast paints.
Yeah, and they look. I mean, the shields. I always got to comment on how stupidly awesome the shields just look.
Mm.
If I'm not mistaken, I remember someone brought this up before, but that's an old design for the shield. Like that goes back, I want to say, to either Warhammer 2nd Edition or Warhammer 3rd Edition, when the old orcs had that like big red squig face as their symbol. So it's just really cool. It's just a callback.
Most of their models, a lot of the stuff they put out new, if you've been around long enough, it is all callbacks. What's nice in a lot of their units now, say in the Gutrippaz, what they do is the shield they have mimics their own face to an extent. So like one of them has a patch over his eye. So on his if you're looking at him on his right eye, so his shield has a metal essentially plating over his right eye.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
One of the other ones has like one eye almost closed and like his mouth open to the side more. So the shield mimics that. So in general, they tried to make them look like the way the particular Orc does.
That's actually pretty damn cool, actually. All right.
Yeah, that and selling some old Firestorm stuff. That's the only other thing I've done this week.
Oh, Firestorm. Oh man.
We'll have to do an
Oh,
episode
that.
just discussing what
Oh.
happened, the rise and
So,
fall.
for those who don't know me, me and Dave actually used to be Firestorm vanguards for the company, and Lord oh
Essentially play
mercy.
testers almost.
Yeah, well, no, and also like we would introduce the games at events and stuff.
Mhm.
And oh Lord have mercy. It's one of the like I'd almost call it a tragedy because it was such a good game, but the company itself was just. But yeah, that's a story for another time.
Yeah, it's what happens when you get top heavy. That's all I'll
Yeah,
say for
way
now.
too, way too top heavy.
But I was able to sell my RSN fleet that for quite a bit of money,
Oh, very
and
nice.
if the game comes back and it's cool, I'll get something
Exactly.
different then. That's fine. Right now, I gotta buy more Auric stuff anyway, so I might as well
Yeah,
get the money to buy them.
plus, I mean, I know we're going to be talking about 3D printers, but I mean, most people are.
Yeah.
I accidentally started Battlefleet Gothic in our local hobby shop. It's just it's easy to 3D print, and the game is still made by one of the I think one of the better rule writers in miniature wargaming, Andy Chambers.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, but yeah, no, yeah, I'm
So
working on stuff as well.
yeah, what have you been doing? So you told me right before we started recording of your 182 nameplates. Was that
Oh
the
my God!
number?
All right, I'll get to that. I'll get to that in a moment. But
All right.
no, I jumped. Oh Lord have mercy! I jumped on the Infinity wagon again.
You and me
Is
both.
it jumped on or jumped off? Well, what's the phrase?
You you fall
Fell
off the
off the.
wagon when you
Yeah.
essentially pick back up an addiction.
Well, point is, I fell off the wagon and I fell pretty hard. And I told myself I was not going to play Infinity again. Um, I told myself that I
Said
had
the
other
same thing.
games to play.
Yeah.
But then I saw the military orders released, and yeah, so most of my armies, I'll probably do this more on like when I talk about myself. Most of my armies have a theme. Besides the Elder, no, even the Elder. All my armies are essentially 40 mil base models and higher. So, for example, for Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer 30,000, I use Custodes and Dark Mechanicum. And even for the Dark Mechanicum, I don't use Thralls. I use the Thalax, which are still on 40 mil bases. Eldar, I don't own. I own maybe 10 Rangers, and all it is Wrath Lords and Wraith Knights and Wraith Guard. Even my
Mm,
fantasy army, my Sigma army is ogres. So
yeah.
when I saw the military orders and how what's the word thick they got
Most
big.
definitely.
Oh, and they just look so damn good. Like one of my favorite models was the Holy Sepulchre Knight, which, for those who don't know, Infinity is basically set in the future, and it's basically a skirmish war game, but with high technological. It's high technology, lots of hacking each other, but essentially the military orders are the they shoot the best, they're the best armored, so on and so forth. But the Holy Sepulchre, the original model was a very skinny knight, and the idea was that he would hollow project images of himself on the battlefield. And I thought that was pretty cool. The new Holy Sepulchre still does the same thing, but he went from a 40 mil base to now, I believe, a 60 millimeter base, and it is
Dude,
a chunky model.
he is
I mean,
huge
put that
now.
thing in a sock and I could beat someone to death with it, kind of thing, like the old metal dreadnoughts from 40K. It is, he ate multiple people and grew big. So yeah, I jumped off the wagon, picked up an Infinity starter box, and I also picked up a motorcycle, Knight of Montesa on a motorcycle bike. So it's basically a holy knight on armor with a motorcycle, which is pretty funny.
And let's be honest about this. I think that was the model that got you back in.
Yeah, it was that or the Holy
Yeah.
Sepulchre. Actually, I think it was the Holy Sepulchre. That
Okay.
seeing how thick that model was and how good it looked, um, that got me. But the knight on the bike also got me. Just the new designs for them, because early Infinity, a lot of the designs for the infantry were, I don't want to say they were similar, but they kind of were. But as Infinity has grown as a game, especially in the new editions, a lot of the models have diversified heavily.
Yeah.
Like you look at a model and you know for example, Yujing, which is the Asian themed army, or you look
Mhm.
at something and it's Ariadna, and Ariadna is essentially the Scottish/English
Yeah.
version of the army. They're wearing it's diversified the model. So when you look at military orders, there's literally that they are knights with their
Yeah.
tabards and their holy symbols. You can see the Knights Templar. Um, but yeah, no, those models were too beautiful. I was going to do that with the monkeys, to be quite honest. There's an alien race called the Morats, which are essentially monkeys in heavy duty armor, and that was
Mhm.
also that was also getting me when I chose the military orders.
I went
Yeah,
I went Starmada because I honestly, what did it for me, when I read more about them, I looked into them, I really did like
yeah.
what I saw. But what I started with was, and in no way do I think I could paint this good, but the paint
Oh
scheme
yeah,
and the style, the blue, a lightish to mid-tone blue with these sort of non-metallic metal golds, I thought was
oh, that sounds
striking.
nice.
Yeah,
I
and the
should point
models
out
are
that the
nice as
people,
well.
yeah, the models are excellent, and the people who paint the models are fiends. The models
Yeah.
come out painted ridiculous. I look at them and then I look at myself. But yeah, no. And then Dave also mentioned that I, I don't know if you
Tell them
guys know
about
this
your
shop.
shame.
Yeah. Oh, my shame. So okay. So a big thing with me is when I collect armies, I collect armies. I find an army that I like and I collect them. It's not even to the point of where I use them as for a tournament. Even I just collect all things. So for example, he mentioned the Custodes army. I have roughly 25,000 points of Custodes, and that's in I want to say 30K points. And 40K, it's probably a hell of a lot more. Um, I mean, I have just 60 guardian, 30 spears, troops, 30 guardians with shield and sword, 15. Oh, no, sorry, 10. What are they called? 10 wardens, 10 Alaris, 15 Sagittarium, 15 Venatari. I do them batches of like 10 to 15. So I have, I think, 181 models.
Point of reference for
Yeah.
those who may not know. If we were going to play standard 40K tomorrow, standard 40K is, let's call it
I
2,000
know where you're
points.
going with this.
How many models would you bring? Just an average.
In average,
These
yeah, I was
are,
just saying because you can always like flub the points, but on
oh,
average, I would
absolutely. But
at
just
most
average.
have. Let me see here: one, two, three, four, five, anywhere between 12 to 16 models on average,
Okay. So it's
if
16
that.
and he's got a 180.
Yeah, I love collecting armies.
Okay.
There's something about collecting the army makes me happy. It's because I don't really go to tournaments that often because of COVID. So I like collecting and painting them. So the same thing with the Mechanicum. I have like 10,000 points Mechanicum. The Eldar, I only have 2,000 points. I have more because I added the Knight because I really like the
Yeah.
look of the Knight. But the Ogres, I picked up 6 Feast of Bones boxes because they were just so stupid cheap. And I was like, well, I guess I now have 200 Ogres to paint because they all come with Noblars too. Um, but yeah, so when I collect armies, I collect them. I collect their theme. I collect everything about them. So it's not just the army I collect. I'll, for example, get their dice. So I actually do have Custodes dice. I have the Ogre dice, which are obnoxiously 32 millimeter dice that you can only fit like 4 in your hand, and they're massive. Um, I have Eldar dice. I have Dark Mechanicum dice. Every army has their own dice set. Um, but so I found this company called Versatile Terrain. Um, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just want to make sure. So the Versatile Terrain makes nameplates, and I used them originally to make nameplates for my Titanicus,
Mm.
my Legio Furion army,
They
and then
look
I
really
used
good.
them.
I do need to do that.
Yeah, that's freaking
Really
goddamn.
do.
But then I got nameplates for my Battlefleet Gothic, and then I had the absolute insane idea of getting nameplates for my Custodes. Every single one of them. And I made up a Microsoft Word document, which I now have in front of me. And I literally came up with 181 individualized, non-repeating Roman Greco-Roman names. And for the Sisters of Silence, I have 60 Sisters of Silence. Um, it's 20 bolt. No, it's sorry. It's 20 swords,
Mhm.
20 bolters, I think 10 flamers, 10 grenade launchers. The grenade launchers are for 30K. They're not 40K. But yeah, no, I came up with 181 unique names. And versatile terrain also allows you to put like titles for some of this. So, for example, I have one of the names is Captain General. That's the title, and then underneath Constantine Valdor, who's the Captain General of the army. But then I have like the contemptors are all Contemptor Galatus Antonius, Contemptor Galatus Claudius, Contemptor Achilles Romulus. And then if you really want to get crazy, because I'm insane, I have a knight contingent. So I have a knight and two Armiger Warglaives. So the knights are literally Armiger. This is their entire nameplate: Armiger Warglaive, Thy Golden Light, Armiger Warglaive, Thy Guiding Hand, and then the Holy Knight, the Emperor's Divining Judgment. So, like, these will be nameplates on them, and God, they look. If you ever want to listen, so I know there's a podcast if anyone listens. If you ever go to Instagram, I'm on Cuban Painting Minis. It's Cuban, then underscore painting, then underscore minis. And you could see what the
I'll,
nameplates look like. I tag them all
I'll,
the
I'll
time.
put it in the show notes.
Oh, you put in
Make
the
sure
show
it's
notes,
in
yeah.
there for you. Yeah.
Yeah, so that way you can check out what the nameplates look like. But again, I'm not sponsored by Versatile Terrain. So yeah, I emailed him, talked to him about the order, and he goes, "Yeah, sure, totally do it." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And yeah, it was 181 nameplates. So one of the larger orders I've ever placed. Although Forge World did give me a run for the money
Oh yeah.
when I ordered the Mechanicus. But yeah, no. And I'm actually like, it sounds stupid. Like, people were like, "Why would you nameplate them?" And to me, it's just it's freaking cool. You know, when you have it, like you can usually I run with the higher amount of custodians, so I'll get like 16 to 18 custodians on the battlefield.
Mhm.
And the reason I have so many too, by the way, I should also point this out, is besides collecting the army, I don't like magnetizing ish. I'll usually magnetize the contemptors or no, sorry, I'll magnetize like the bigger contemptors or the knight, but I don't like magnetizing smaller models. That annoys me. So I'll
Agree.
buy models to literally fit everything. So for example, the reason I have 15 spears and 15 swords is because I can literally now run 3 sets of 5 spears or 3 sets of 5 swords or mix and match.
Mhm.
That's variation. I have 20 Achilles, 20 Alaris because I have 10 with spears and 10 with axes, which is the maximum size of that squad. So it gives me mix and match capability essentially. I can run pretty much any army I've wanted. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, no, it's kind of fun to have 18 models with names on the battlefield. And honestly, I'm the kind of dude that if he dies, not to like a bolter, but if he dies to something like a volcano cannon, he's not coming back on the battlefield ever. He's being replaced by, I don't know, let's see here. He's being if let me pull out a name here. If Doripa is being is yeah, if Doripa is being hit by a volcano cannon, he just gets evaporated. Sorry, he dead. You know who takes over?
Throw them right in the garbage.
Eutychus, exactly, or Fulvius, or
Uh,
Faustus, or Fidelis. Many other custodians that could take his place.
So,
10,000.
here's how I see it. Is it excessive? Absolutely, but we're talking about a hobby, and a hobby at the end of the day is
Absolutely.
an excessive thing. You don't have to do hobbies, and you can decide the level to which you want to do them. If you have,
Absolutely.
if you have the time, ability, money, all the sorts of things that go into it, and that's what you want, nothing against it. Because let's face it, the other option is, if the money's already burn a hole in your pocket, and you're like, you know what, this is my hobby money, I'm going to use it for something. That's probably a better idea than let me go buy tons of new models for the game where maybe I don't get to play them, or maybe it's
Oh,
cutting into the other
absolutely.
part I'm doing. So
I should
I
also
think it's
point
still
out to
insane.
the
But
I should also point out to the people that listen that I have a zero backlog right now. Sorry, that's not true. I bought Infinity, but as it stands
it's
right
still,
before the Infinity, I had a zero backlog. So
I mean, Infinity
anytime I get something, I paid.
Infinity boxes are like the big boxes are like 10 models, so you probably only
Yeah,
got you still have
it's
a very small backlog.
yeah. It'll take me 2 weeks. It'll take me 2 weeks to get it done.
Yeah.
Maybe even one if I focus. But yeah, no, that's what I've been working on. So I got to get getting the name tags either I think today or tomorrow or the next day. And honestly, the painting them is easy because it's just black spray paint that I dry brush molten bronze, and then over the names I
Mhm.
dry brush a little of silver to give like a burnished
Okay.
look.
Yeah.
That way it gives it like a black gold. It looks really nice. It looks really nice.
Mhm.
But that's not the annoying. The annoying part is cleaning it because when it comes in, it comes in with the what are they called when you 3D print? Not the frames. The Little
Oh,
bit,
oh, all the supports and all on it, you
supports, yeah.
mean?
All the
Yeah.
supports are still on it, especially with the nameplates. So 181
Oh.
nameplates and removing support is going to have. I'm just going to go outside on my table and just brush the plastic into the grass, and just when I
Uh,
mow the lawn again, it'll pick it all up again. That's,
Honestly, what's probably a good idea if you got a table outside, put your table, get an empty box, either work into the empty box or put the empty box under you and just let it snap right into that.
oh, that's
You'll
not a bad
catch a
idea,
lot
actually.
more of
Yeah,
it. Because otherwise,
that is true.
your mower is probably just going to send it all over the place. Otherwise, I would do it
Oh,
that
very
way.
true.
That might give you a little bit more
Oh,
containment.
true, true, true. Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm working on. That's going to be my backlog for the next couple weeks.
I'm sure that
Alien
was
nameplates.
unexpected.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I love it though. I can't wait. It puts a smile on my face. Puts a smile on my face because I love them. You know, the Custodians are one of my more favorite armies that I've ever played. I started
Yeah.
collecting them when they first came out with their. It was like I think sixth edition or seventh edition. They came out with a box that is
Mhm.
like they weren't an even army. You had to ally them in. And I
Yep.
just I collected like 3 or 4 of those boxes and just sold off the Land Raiders because I hate Land Raiders. Um, and yeah, no, it's working on that was so much fun. So much fun.
So it'll keep you busy, and then you can get to your Infinity. I'll get to mine one of these
Oh
days. I
boy.
want to get these Aurochs painted first, and then I'll worry about Infinity. I haven't even assembled it yet because I was worried if I
Neither have
assembled
I.
it. So our local store, Maplewood Hobby in Maplewood, New Jersey, we had an Infinity tournament last weekend, and I wanted to avoid assembling my Infinity because I didn't want my first game back in I want to say 4 to 5 years to be a tournament. That
Yeah, no, that's a
um
bad move. That's a
yeah,
bad
that
move.
wouldn't have felt well. So I was like, you know what? These guys are going to sit until I'm ready. I think next week I'll get to them and I'll work on them
Now
at least so I
the
can get the
Infinity,
game in.
yeah, the Infinity community isn't that bad. You know, they're actually
Oh,
pretty good people. There are communities that are bad. War Machine, but like the Infinity
they're,
community is bad, but
they're
tournaments are
great.
still, yeah,
Yes, the
it's
game
just tournament.
itself is very much you made this small mistake. You faced the wrong way because it's a game with facing. You are going to pay for it now. It's not a
Oh
very
yeah,
forgiving game. You know, everyone
no,
I've
it is
ever
not.
played in it is very, very nice. But if you make a mistake and we're playing a competitive game, I'm going to make you pay for it. Infinity is a
Oh
game
yeah,
where you will pay for it through the teeth.
oh yeah. It's very fast. It's a skirmish game by its literally the most skirmish games, right?
Yep.
And it's you react to you literally react to enemy movement during his movement. You can literally
Yeah.
shoot his models as he's moving across the board, and they cross your line of sight. So it's a very, it's a tough game, but it's freaking fun though. Jesus,
Yeah.
it is fun.
And in addition, we'll in a future thing we'll have someone on to kind of go over
I'll
it
have
and
a.
to discuss it
Oh,
more.
you know a
But
person.
the new
We
edition is
know a
very nice.
person.
Oh yeah, we got people for just about everything. So
Yeah, pretty much. We play
yeah,
everything. It's nuts.
just
All
about.
right.
All right, so we're
Well,
gonna go on to just a little bit of news, not for too long because we have another big topic we want to get to, but so there's a little bit of news, mostly from the big companies that we follow, be it GW, FFG, I follow a lot, as well as now Atomic Mass Games, since they're the ones who have the miniature license for all the Star Wars games, all under Asmodee.
FF. Yep.
So GW wise. I don't know what they're doing for 40K because honestly, I don't follow 40K. I don't.
So I
I
got
wish
you
I
on this.
cared.
Oh, I got you on this one. The 40K, not really. So rumors are that
Mhm.
Custodes Codex and Gene Stealer Cult Codex will come out in December. And rumors are as rumors go, but the big thing is the person who's releasing the rumor pretty much has guessed 100% or at least 99% of the time what the releases were.
Okay.
We're not sure who this dude is. Maybe he works for GW, but every time he releases something I think it's Reddit that he releases the information. It's been right 99% of the time, right? With some like
Okay.
variations to the points or like to the name sometimes, but it's the releases and the rules are usually the same. So we're probably looking at a Custodes Gene Stealer release right in December, and it's gonna be like a box essentially, is what the rumor is. And then for
Oh, okay.
30K, then for 30K, this is the big thing where people are going. So 30K had a big leak last month with
Mhm.
a bunch of pictures showing a box set. And it was 30K models, and it was plastic Marines. Let me see if I can pull up the picture. So, but there were two big things. First of all, it looked like a new version of the rules. Now, there were templates in the picture, so hopefully, we're all hoping that it doesn't move to 8th edition, right? We're all hoping it stays that kind of 7th edition 30K that we all know and love.
How
Here's the
how
picture.
long how long have they had their rule set? Do you have an idea of how long
So
it's been?
yes, it's been since 5th. So
Okay.
originally 30K is from 5th edition, and
Okay.
then so the modern day 30K is a mixture of 5th, 6th, and 7th. It
Okay.
basically fixes 5th, 6th, and 7th and combines them.
Okay.
But originally it was a 5th edition rule set, and now it's more
Mm.
of it's close enough to a 7th edition rule set, which for those of you who play 40K was the time of armor values and weapon
Oh yeah, they
skill,
don't do that
which
anymore.
yeah, I know. But yeah, no. So there's a scatter die. There looks like templates. So, but the big reason is, so I'm looking at this picture. It looks like there are new 30K plastics, right? New plastic because the GW released that plastic 30K, that the Horus Heresy plastic Marines before, and people buy those up. If you
Yeah.
want a 30K, if you ever want to play 30K, little tips and tricks. If you ever want to play 30K ever, and you want to start, find those plastic box sets. Those things come with like 60 Marines, and they're all plastic Horus Heresy models with some Terminators that are old Heresy models. So that's the best bet. Anyway, so yeah, it looks like there's a Contemptor that's plastic with a new missile pod. Because people are like, oh, this can't be leaks. And then you look at the missile pod and the Contemptor, and it's a completely new design. And then
Mm.
this is what got people crazy. So it looks like there's going to be a plastic Spartan. So for those who don't know what a Spartan is a GW Land Raider that's on crack. It took steroids. It's a Forge World model, actually. It's a Land Raider that's about 1.5 times its size. 2 times. Let's say 2 times. It's chunky, it's massive, it's heavy. The treads alone are these massive pieces of resin, and it's a bunch of money on Forge World. But when they released these pictures, or sorry, when they leaked these pictures, the Spartans showed up in the box set. So the only way that was going to happen is if it's plastic. So if they release a plastic Spartan, that'll be, oh my lord, have mercy.
I
Because
did
it's
just pull it up. I just looked it up on
yeah,
the
Forge
subreddit
World.
for no yeah on the subreddit for Warhammer 30K of
Oh yeah,
the not terrible but not great pictures that someone has taken of it all,
yeah, but
and yeah it looks nice.
they're pretty specific. Like you can still see the
Yeah.
scatter die, you can still see the template. And the funny part is, again, some of these models exist. There's some
Mhm.
changes, like again the missile launcher on top of the Contemptor. Um, I think the Terminators were the same. Well, I think the Sons of Horus Marines were a little bit different, but like I said, this looked like an actual box set. So we're not sure when it's going to come out. There's been really no releases for Horus Heresy recently, but they keep producing articles, which is really weird. They go, oh, destroyers, have you tried them? So we're most likely seeing a release for them. So that's GW.
Keeps
That's
it in the
then they,
zeitgeist. Well,
yeah. Also, I should point out they also did Aeronautica, but who plays that?
yes, that's actually what I was about to mention is,
Yeah.
talking about they haven't done releases in a while. Aeronautica, as far as I know, hasn't been talked about in months and months and months. So now they're doing a box of Eldar
Yep.
and Space Marines, I think, or whoever else is the other side
Now
for it.
here's the sad part. They actually released released those models. They showed those models. Oh God, when did they show those models? I say back in May or June. Those models
Yeah.
were because that was when they made the troll joke of a plastic Thunderhawk, and people got super excited. And then it was a plastic Thunderhawk
Okay.
for not. Yeah, they was.
That was
Oh, people were mad. The salt was real. Yeah, it was really bad. But no, they released a picture of those models. What is it? Months ago, probably even before June, July, probably like May or before that. But yeah, they're finally coming out. But yeah, that did come out of the woodwork. That did come out of I don't know where.
COVID's making it tough right now.
Yeah,
I was reading earlier today how there's a backup of like 50 container ships off the ports in California just waiting to get in and they can't. So I mean, shipping is still a nightmare in general. They don't produce most of the GW stuff is produced, in Nottingham. It's in their own location. But even still, just getting it shipped around, just getting your ship into a port is a problem, let alone if it's coming
Yeah.
from China. So,
Oh yeah.
but that's interesting. I'm happy that they're actually doing more with
Yeah.
30K or supporting more of these niche sides they have, because that's always one of the problems I have with GW, or sort of the feel is that sometimes, hey, come up with this cool game, this cool idea, and am I going to get enough to really play it? Because if say with
Exactly.
Aeronautica, if you're going to give me 3 releases and then not going to talk to me for 6 months or more, I can't get people into a game for that.
No, yeah.
So,
Versus something like Titanicus, which is a third party game for GW, but that gets releases. God, what, every 2 months, every 3 months?
yeah, I would say probably about every 3 months, and
Yeah.
if it misses that because in the last while it easily could have, with COVID going on, a lot of things have missed. Even if they have, they still do regular articles as well as talking about, if not a
Exactly.
GW model, there's at least like maybe Forge World Weapon Pack or something on the horizon. They always
Oh
let you
yeah,
know that
yeah.
we got something we're working on. So for a bit of other news, for anyone who follows anything through Fantasy Flight Games, they had their state of play this other week. So I sat and listened to that. So just a few highlights. I know from the conversation afterwards, there was a lot of people who felt wanting from the end of it.
Hmm.
If you like something they do, most of it was good, but very little was new. So like for Marvel Champions, which if you haven't played, it's a great card game. We'll discuss that one of these days just to go through it. They told us, okay, the new hero, it's going to be Vision. The next box with a sort of campaign box they do, it's going to be Spider Foes. They're going to put Miles Morales Ghost Spider in there. They mentioned the Sinister Six is going to be one of the scenarios that you go against. What that's going to look like, who knows? Very exciting. But we knew something was going to happen for that. We didn't necessarily know that's exactly what it was going to be, but we were aware of something. Um, they talked about, okay, hey, for Descent, yeah, it's going real great. We got some cool looking stuff for it. We're gonna have some more stuff coming out in the future. For different games, yeah, it's going well. We got some more stuff coming out in the future. Not much in terms of dates, and that's understandable right now. You can't really talk about dates of things. The biggest exciting thing that everyone on the stream was hoping for, wishing for, and couldn't believe would ever actually happen was the first expansion that they've done for Outer Rim. Now, Outer Rim it's a great board game, came out several years ago. There's been a clamoring for some sort of expansion for it, anything like that. Talked about it for a super long time, and they finally, at the very end of it, said, "Yeah, we are doing one," with a literal mic drop at the end, mind you. Um, the head of the studio actually dropped his mic, and actually it did kind of split apart when he did that. So that was nice. They informed more about how Keyforge is broken.
Yeah, this one you have to explain to me.
So for anyone who's not aware, Keyforge is another game made originally by Andrew Garfield, who, if you've played a game, there's a very good chance he has had some sort of influence on it. So he's best known for Magic. He's the man who made Magic what it is. And essentially, he came up with Keyforge as a sort of, as he put it, what he loved most about Magic in the beginning was, I went to the store, I got a pack or two, I crack it open, and hey, look what I got. I'm going to play it against my friend. Like, this is going to be cool. His was never, at least from the way he makes it sound, it was never necessarily the, you know, pre-built sort of thing. It was more of the wonder and excitement of what you could find and what could it do and what did my friend
Yeah.
get and what's that going to do to me and all that kind of thing.
That makes sense.
So Keyforge's main idea is that the decks are pre-built, but they are done in a randomized way. So if we think of a set that they come out with would have essentially they do houses. Let's say it has 8 houses in it. And your deck is going to be made up of 15 cards. Pretty sure it's 15 cards. Don't quote me on that. But essentially 15 cards of each house. So you got 3 houses in there. And, what you get in your deck and what I get in mine, we will never find the same deck. Now, our decks could be very similar. Maybe we have a lot of cards the same, but there's going to be something that's different. They all have unique names. All of it is essentially algorithm generated with a certain amount of, for lack of a better word, rares and stuff like that. And there's some more into it. We can kind of talk about some of the more things that they do. But the big thing is that it's created with an algorithm, and they need to use an algorithm because something needs to be able to put these decks together in a way that fits the rules. So, correct amount of cards, correct amount of houses, all that sort of stuff. What happened is, and they mentioned this the other week, is that their algorithm is just broke, just doesn't work. They didn't, for obvious reasons, go into exactly what happened. I'm sure they can't. There's been all kinds of crazy speculation. But essentially, their algorithm doesn't work. So they had to rebuild it. And while they're doing that, you can't put out anything for the game because you don't have anything to actually put your decks together.
Exactly. That sucks. That's almost, man. I don't even know how that I could even like relate to that because like I was gonna say, oh, that's like if the Age of Sigmar army builder broke, but no, you could still use the books. Still use the books to play.
The best analogy for maybe a miniatures game is if every single one of your molds broke all at the same time. Because you can't produce your models until you fix it and correct that problem. That's essentially what it is. Their molds broke. So there was supposed to be a new set coming out in the pretty near future. Again, with COVID, who knows exactly when, but in the pretty near future. But it's essentially been put on a hiatus currently. They said they're absolutely bringing it back, but they've got to work on this. In the meantime, they said they are working on a digital form. So, and that's, people have been calling that for a while. There is currently digital platforms, but nothing official. It'd be nice to see a nice official version of it. But it was nice. I'm glad I watched it. I got reasonably excited because I've always kind of liked their board game aspects and the sort of things they do, and I think the set's a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying that. But I didn't hear much other than the Outer Rim that I wasn't expecting. I kind of figured we got what we got.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Outer Rim also a video game? Right?
It might be. It probably is.
I got to search this up. Hold on.
Yeah,
now I'm going to drive me because I feel like I've heard this as a. Hold on.
It probably is. I wouldn't doubt that it is. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Outer Rim on Steam, maybe? Let's see. No, okay, never mind. Oh, I swear to God, there's a game with like a very similar name, and it's going to drive me up the wall. Something Rim. Oh man, I don't know. I'll figure it out later. I know it's going to come to me later on.
Outer Worlds.
Oh, is it Outer Worlds? Hold on.
You're thinking of the Outer Worlds, which was a great game.
I had to get it Outer Worlds. Yes, it was. Yeah. That's why I'm like, I know this name sounds familiar. It's going to drive me up the wall. I'm thinking about something. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm good.
Last bit of big news. So AMG, the Atomic Mass Games, they are also owned by Asmodee, the same people that own Fantasy Flight Games. They, over the last year or so, were given the Star Wars license. So they have all the Star Wars miniature games. They have Legion, X-Wing, and Armada. So they do a yearly mini extravaganza. So their original game was Marvel Crisis Protocol. Now they have these other ones. So originally it was just about that game, but now they got more things. So now they're discussing all their various games. Some of the things, just to kind of point out, and again, other people have gone through this first, but one, X-Wing's got some new designs, some new ideas that they put together. So like the game used to be you play until someone's dead. Now it's 12 rounds. They've come out and said, you know what, it's 12 rounds. And you know what? That's not a problem. The game doesn't go more than that. If you're in a tournament, it's timed anyway.
That makes sense.
They changed the bid mechanic. So the bid mechanic used to be, if I'm less points, then I get to decide who goes first or second. And that's important because if we tie, if I'm going first, I get to move first and shoot first. I'll get to do things before you do. What they said is, it's going to be a random roll now. We're going to remove that. They were tired of, you got 200 points for your list and people are trying to shave down points and all these sorts of things. They're like, no, 200 points, play 200 points. You're going to randomly roll and see who gets to go first or who gets to make that determination.
Okay. Okay. So, say I did play Star Wars for a little bit.
You did.
Oh wait, is Bernie? Wait, hold on a second. I think my dog's outside. Hold on.
That's all right.
Is Bernie outside? Oh no! Whoops.
Mine came back here. I thought he was about to start bugging me, but then he just walked to the front.
Hold on. Give me 1 second.
That's all right.
I just realized Bernie's outside. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I have a. Hold on. Let me see something.
All right. I'll discuss a little bit more of the design decisions they did. The other thing is it used to be you could essentially hide points. So let's say I built a list, 200-point list, which is the game should be.
Never.
But my opponent
Never.
only made 190-point list. That means they have 10 points that I can't get because the game is essentially won by destroying more points or having more points. You can get it for half hull and stuff like that, or half not half hull, essentially half value and all. There's ways to get points other than just pure out killing, but if you have hidden points, if you didn't put all your points in your list, there's points I can't get. So what they do now is, well, the game is 200 points. Any amount you're under, your opponent immediately gets. So if I only build a 190, you start off with 10 points automatically. Which means that there's no reason to really underbuild. You'll throw on the extra upgrade because you're going to give away points anyway. So I got a point free. I'll find something. I'll throw a 1-pointer on someone. And maybe over time I'll find some 1-pointers that I really like the look of. Maybe I'll find something that really does good for me.
And I was going to explain exactly what you were explaining, by the way. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that was one of the big things. And luckily, they saw that was something that happened. They saw this new system could still have that, and they corrected it. The big thing, and something that X-Wing has needed forever, they talked about the idea that in the future there will actually be sort of missions. Right now, X-Wing is I fight you, whoever gets more points wins. It doesn't have objectives or anything like that. That's what they started discussing, which I'm very excited about. I think that'll really bring some people into that hobby or back into that hobby.
Yeah. And you know what? I love it when a company kind of sees its mistakes and fixes it retroactively. Because I don't think they're not releasing a new edition. They're just kind of retroactively fixing certain things that they didn't like. So that's always good,
Keep in mind, they weren't the ones who put this together. FFG was.
Oh, that's right.
AMG
that's right.
took it over.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know what FFG had in mind. Some of their ideas that AMG mentioned might have been the same ones that FFG was going to do. That kind of stuff we don't know. But they have now said that here's what they have in mind. Everyone I talked to, so I was actually at Red Seal Gaming the other day because it's close to me and they had model that I needed. And they were doing an impromptu X-Wing tournament that day just to teach some of the new players how a tournament is. So they can kind of get one that, doesn't really count under the belt. Like it counts, but it's just locals. They didn't advertise it out. You're not going to get any, crazy strong sharks in there or anything like that. It's the people you play with on weekly. But that way you can kind of get a feel of a tournament. And everyone that I was talking to, everyone was very positive on these changes, which is nice. The community is really coming around them for it. The other thing they mentioned, so Marvel Crisis Protocol is their big game with AMG. So a lot of it was about that. They showed some of the new releases. They have Rogue Gambit coming out. They have Juggernaut. They have Colossus and Magic.
Gambit is the best X-Men. We do realize this, right? Now, you can fight me on this, but Gambit is the best X-Men.
When I was a kid, I thought he was.
Oh yeah, everyone and we're talking about the original '90s cartoon that we grew up with. Yeah, Gambit was the goddamn best. I
haven't gone back and watched that in some time, but I need to.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. I have. Oh my Lord, have mercy. It's so
honestly, I watched it but we did it as a drinking game, but I watched it not too long ago. It wasn't really that bad. Now, it's not necessarily as good as some stuff that comes out now, but I think it's pretty good for what it is, even without the nostalgia hit. But the nostalgia hit is what actually makes
was great. Let me rephrase this.
Yes.
The story was great. Like oh my God, the whole entire when they went to the Lost Island with the guy who transformed into a dinosaur, that was great with Sinister. Oh my Lord. But the dialogue. The dialogue was just so my God. It reminded me of the old Batman, Oh man.
The
it was a kid show, so I can't blame it.
It was a kid show during the 90s. The dialogue I thought was okay. The animation was downright atrocious at some points. Points where people don't even have two eyes. Stuff like that. You can look up if you not that you necessarily if you want to drink, but even if you don't, you can look up the drinking game related to it. There's various ones out there, and half of the things on there are about animation fails, essentially. Uh,
Oof,
but
oof.
I am excited for his box. It is a game that I play. I'm excited for anything related to the mutants. I like that that's where they're going right now, and that's what they're putting a lot out of. Um,
Not only
Juggernaut,
if
all
Marvel,
that stuff looks really nice.
not only if Marvel and who owns the X-Men still? Fox. If only Marvel and Fox can get off their ass and actually put the X-Men in the Avengers movies. Oh man.
I, I don't read as many comics as I would like to, but I do read some comics, and I have to say, anytime I read some like Avengers comics, it always throws me the first time when I read it, and then there's like Wolverine hanging out with them. I'm like, wait, when you?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, because you're actually in this. All of you guys are in this.
yeah.
Like it was a little
It's
bit the
weird
first
not
time.
to see Wolverine as an Avenger because
Yep.
he's actually pretty like him and Captain America are like actual buds because they
Yeah.
actually hate Stark together. You know, they're both war heroes. They both fight for America. They're both rugged individualism. It's really funny.
Yeah. All right. Um. So I think what we'll get to now then is we'll get a bit into the not that it'll be longer than what we've done so far, but sort of the meat of the show.
Yeah,
And so our first episode, we essentially the whole purpose of it, we were going to do a short recording just to test things out, and we ended up talking for a while. And I said, you know what, it's content. Let's put it out there. Don't waste content, baby. Let's go. Um, but what we should have done for first episode, what we're going to do today, is just a bit of an introduction to discuss, who we are, a bit of our background, essentially why you're listening or why you might be sitting here listening to us. So first question to you, Dan, is when did you actually get into this hobby? What brought you in?
So, yeah. So ironically, this is the funny part. This question was asked of me when I was having a little dinner with our next door neighbor. Because our next door neighbor he's a train collector and an electrician, and he invited me to the
Okay.
basement. And his entire basement is one. I think his is Z scale. What's the really small one? Is that Z or is that N?
If,
N is 8 millimeter. I want to say it's close enough to
yeah.
8 millimeter, and Z is
Oh,
like
I think it's bigger. It might be Z then. Yeah.
it was
I
probably
know
N or
very
Z,
little
but
of trains.
his whole entire basement, is one gigantic train place. And so he was discussing with me like when I started, and it's funny. We all kind of started at the same time. I started when I was around 7 and 8 years old, because there there was a mall that opened up near me, and the mall that I didn't live in a great town. I lived in a more urban setting, and so for a mall to open up near you is a pretty big deal. And in that
Absolutely.
mall was a Games Workshop, and I remember passing by, and I wasn't big into video games at the time. Um, I was more into like cars and building cars and trucks and stuff. And my family wasn't that that rich either. So we walk into the Games Workshop because it's just toys, you know what I mean? And I
Mhm.
remember seeing the models on the display case. And the one thing about Games Workshop stores is that damn, they have some really good. They can sell you on something, damn.
Yeah.
And I remember
They
looking
know
at a
what they got.
7-year-old kid. Yep, and I fell in love. And this is when they first came out. And that's a story for that. I fell in with the Tau, and so I picked up a box of Tau, and they were cheap back in the day before the prices they are today. Picked up a box of Tau. I went home, built it, painted it as awfully as I possibly could, and I kind of just started it. That kind of start. Oh God, yeah. I used my father's acrylic paint to paint my
That's
models.
right. Please tell me you use craft paint. That's what I want to
Oh,
hear.
close enough, close enough. It was like acrylic painter's paint. It came out so thick. Oh, I have one of my original models that I first started just to save it for nostalgia, and oh my god, it looks like I took a crayon to it. It's awful, but I was so proud of it. You know what I mean? I was so proud of it. And I
Absolutely.
built it, and
Gotta be.
yeah, that was my first gaming experience. You know? What
Wow.
about you?
So I I also grew up I grew up in a less urban environment, but in a very, like further down in South Jersey. And if anyone knows anything of South Jersey, the one thing it does not have is money in any way. or back when I was growing up, the big news was when they put in the Walmart. Um, there wasn't a hobby there, as far as I know. There never was. There might not even be now. So honestly, I didn't start getting into, I started D&D when I got into college. So that was sort of my entry point. And now some of the people I'm playing with
We
now,
drunk.
we've been playing for almost 20 years together. Because probably at the time of like say 19 or something like that, we started playing. After that though, I didn't get into miniature wargaming until it was during 5th edition of Warhammer 40K. I don't remember exactly where in terms it was in 5th edition. I just know I was in college and I don't think I was in grad school yet. I think I was still an undergrad at that point. And I remember a mutual friend of ours, Spencer, was like, "Hey, me and a couple other guys, we're gonna play this game, Warhammer 40K." Like, I don't know anything
Could not
about it. Let me
sound
go.
more like a drug deal. I want to point out this could not sound more like a drug deal. Hey man, you got
Uh,
some Warhammer?
Yeah, but that's accurate for the hobby. At the end of the day, it is. It is essentially a drug deal. Like, hey, why don't you come on, try this out. Try some models. Play with this stuff a little bit, and I'll go buy that over there.
So Spencer showed you what?
He didn't even show me the game. He told me, hey, I'm gonna get into
Oh,
this game. Or another friend of ours, Jay, we're getting into this game. A couple other people. There's supposed to be, I don't know, 4 or 5 of us gonna get it. I was like, you know what? Cool. I don't know anything about it. Let me go read a little bit about it. I knew a little bit maybe from like the video games, and I was like, it seems cool. So I sat down. I listened to the independent characters. They did an episode or 2 episodes. I don't remember how many it was on what each faction is, what they're about, and all of that. So I sat down. I listened to that about twice over, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get Blood Angels. They sound cool. Let me go do that. And my first memory of going to Maplewood Hobby was going there. I don't even remember exactly what happened. I know the store manager, Rich, when I was all said and done, he had loaded a battle force and a bunch of paints and all kinds of stuff into my hands. And the whirlwind ends with me spending, I don't know, however many couple $100, and I walk out and I'm just like, I don't even know what to do with this stuff. So I just had to go start looking up YouTube videos of literally everything, even how to prime stuff, because I never did any of that before. I was worried, I lived in an apartment at the time. Wait, so I can go outside and do this? What about the weather and all of that? And, I got into it much
I
later.
find it funny. I find it funny that you're mentioning YouTube. And when I
Yeah.
started it, YouTube hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah.
So like all that, yeah, I was still using Britannica. Remember that?
Oh yeah. We had that stuff
Yeah,
on
I think I got
CD.
into fourth edition. Fourth edition is when I started. So what was your first game? What was your first game then?
So for me, it was that, and it sounds like it was for you too. I mean, so,
Actually, it
so I,
wasn't.
I put into things, like not
Yeah,
counting, you know, big things like
yeah,
Monopoly and other
yeah.
garbage things
So
like that. Not
ironically, it's not. And this is where it
really.
gets really creepy. This is a story that kind of like I tell because it's a really so when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I got chicken pox, right? This was back in the day. And when I got chicken pox, my parents, to make me feel better, got me toys. Now, I'm going to
Okay.
explain the toys, and that for some of the listeners, they might be smiling. So the toys were something like a Hatchet Man, a Hunchback, and they were really cool robots. Like if the Hunchback got shot in the chest, the leg would blow out, or the Axeman, the missiles would come off the top, and if it hit the head of the Thor, right, which is another mech, it would pop the head off. They would eject, and it had a Mauler. And then eventually, those toys went away. And then when I was in school, I always remember this. We were very young in school. We downloaded video games on the computer because that's what you do when you're a kid and stupid.
Absolutely.
And we
That sounds like
downloaded
a
a
good idea.
game called yeah, downloaded a game called Mech Warrior. And it took me a while to realize that the toys that my parents bought me were the BattleTech action figures from the TV show BattleTech, which is also leads into the video game MechWarrior. So technically, my first ever game was playing with with these BattleTech toys and shooting SRMs at each other and blowing off pieces of the mech. It's not really a game, I should say, but that was my first introduction to like miniature wargaming, believe it or not.
I didn't even know they did like toys for children. I just thought it was the
Oh, you have
miniatures
to
for
look
the
it up.
game.
Hold
I
on.
was not sure of
I'll
that.
take 10 seconds and here, let me see. I guess BattleTech toys. Let me see if that works on Google. Yep. Type in BattleTech toys on Google. And when I was a kid with
Oh,
chickenpox, yeah, I had no idea that this was Mech War. No, this is BattleTech. I didn't know what
yeah.
BattleTech was. I was a stupid kid. These are just really cool robots where the head ejects, or like you shoot missiles at each other. That's stupid cool. They even have little riders inside the mech. You put pilots in them. Um, and it wasn't until later that I realized I was playing BattleTech on,
Yeah.
on my house floor with BattleX. Yeah.
See, at least I had a friend decide to get me in. Your parents got you in without even knowing what they had done to
Oh
you.
man, they gave me the crack early. They gave me the crack early. Yeah, no, and I still have, and this is I will never, I still have that blue. It's the blue and what is it, like blue and gold and bronze? That blue and bronze Mauler. I still have it. I lost all the other ones. I broke and lost all the other ones, but I still have that Mauler, and the head still ejects. The spring still works. Oh man, that puts a
That's
smile on my
very
face though.
I, I can't say anything about toys though. So I think if they're actually in my basement or it might be in the guest bedroom because that's a great spot in case we have someone stay over and they want to play with anything. I still have my old Aliens toys from the movie because I was that weird
Oh,
kid
that's
when I was
cool.
super young. It was my favorite thing. I remember saving up like literal change so I could go and buy various
Yep.
Aliens toys. But I still
Mind
got a
you, at
big
Toys R
bag
Us.
full.
At the Toys R Us, of course, because there was no
Oh,
Target, there
most
was no
definitely.
Walmart. Yeah.
Actually,
Oh, was there
Toys.
Target?
So let me say, there was no Toys R Us with maybe about 40 minutes away from where I was growing up.
Okay.
So actually, we went to and got them from Kmart.
Kmart. I remember
Yep, where I
Kmart.
bought all my toys. They were like 4.95 each, and I was like, when I was super little and I didn't even understand taxes at first, and I'm like, wait, why do I give them $5? And they're like, we need more money. Like too young to even realize that, like, oh yeah, sales tax is a thing. But
Yeah.
still got
All right. So
those.
what's your favorite part of the hobby, Dave? Well, what's your favorite part?
Um, I think I will say I think it varies, and I think it can vary week to week. I I think overall I love the idea of playing a little bit more than I actually like to play. Doesn't mean I don't like to. I do like playing with them, but let's face it. At the end of the day, that's what we spend the least amount of time in the hobby on. You're assuming you play a miniature game that you're going to build and paint, or that you want to paint. You spend so much more time building, painting, list building, theorizing, thinking than actually playing. I
Hmm.
think it's sort of that, you know, somewhere between the painting slash to just kind of, taking all of it in and, maybe a little bit of that theory crafting or thinking about what you have or what could come out or what's coming up next. Not that I don't mind building, depends on the model. Some I like building. My Infinity, I'm not gonna lie, I'm also putting it off because I hate assembling metal models. Um, the painting, once I get into it, once I really start it up again, then I really get into that part and I will spend multiple hours a day painting. It's probably somewhere between the painting to, just the general excitement of what's to come. I'd have to say.
Yeah.
How about for you? For right now, I know it
Oh,
has to be anything other than playing because I know you're not really getting out to play much.
yeah. No, COVID-19. I have a 2-year-old at home, and I do
Yeah.
go to. I know my local shop Maplewood I love, but I've been going to Mythicos because they actually mandate masks there a little bit more. So just to
Yeah.
be safe, I go to Mythicos. But yeah, no, my favorite part of the hobby. Oh, okay. So it's split. It's a hard. I don't like painting, even though I paint my armies very quickly.
I
I
was
painted
very
the.
surprised. That
Yeah.
surprises me. You
Okay.
paint so
Yes.
much
So
and you paint
so
faster than just about
quickly.
anyone I know.
Well, I know the ogre army that looks really good. How many? Oh my god, how many ogres did I paint? That took me a month. 180 Noblars is part of that army. It took me a month. Um, I don't like painting though because I, if I get into it and I'm sitting down and I'm like listening to a podcast or a YouTube video, then I'll paint. But I have to be in the mood, and what I'll do is I'll finish in one day. Look, if I have 3 Venatori on my desk, they're getting done today or they're getting done the next day as the ink dries. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So that's why I
Yeah.
don't like it because I get kind of obsessed. Playing
Right.
is obviously my favorite, but this is my I love the building slash customization of modeling. So one of my favorite things to do is to take a normal model, build a normal, but then like pose it a different way, or maybe cut the shoulders so I can angle the arm differently, or customize like one of my favorite things. Again, if you post the Instagram link on there, but
Yeah, I'll make
on my
sure I get
Instagram, I
that
posted,
posted
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
this.
No, I made an Imperial Knight, a Dark Mechanic Imperial Knight, and I custom made. I think you know the model I'm talking about. I custom made the chainsword, right?
Yeah.
And it's a
Mhm.
huge, like almost a broadsword version of a chainsword that he's on a rock and he's holding it as he's looking out in the distance. And so it's one of my favorite models of all time. I love customizing models and making them look slightly different because like building them normally is fine too. Following the instructions is fine because you got to learn how to build it. But then taking that same model and then like posing it a little different. Like give you a good example. Give you a good example. So some of the Custodes models. One of the Custodes models for the Shield Captain model is that he has a sword in his hand, but it's like straight down. He's holding it like very much like an old Knight Templar, holding it straight down with one hand. What you can do is if you cut the arm correctly, you can actually angle it so that pardon me, you can angle it so that the sword now kind of goes behind his back at an
Okay.
angle. So it's almost like he's holding like a weird anime style knife essentially, but he's holding it like a weird anime style knife where he's holding it essentially behind his back at an angle, almost ready to like swing it forward and slash someone. And it's a stupid, simple, easy thing to do, but it makes the model look different. Very, very, very different.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no,
But
painting is always my least unless I'm actually need to do it. But no, customization of a model and it sucks because then you see it gray and you're like, I don't want to ruin this by painting. But seeing the
yeah.
model like just come together and it's almost kind of beautiful with all the various grays and whites and resins that you put in and all the cuts you see. Like
Mm.
it's almost kind of beautiful in a way. Like one of the things I want to work on is I want to make another Custodes. But that's actually true. I saw this Sigmar model, and God, Sigmar, not Sigmar. What are they called? Stormcast. So the Stormcast
Okay.
model
Yeah.
of the dude piercing the ground with his fist. Like it looks like he's teleporting in, and he's punching the ground with his fist, and the ground is like crumbled, right?
Is
And I'm
he the
thinking to
one
myself,
with the cape with the hammers on the bottom?
yes, 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 yes,
That
yes, yes,
guy?
yes.
Okay.
He looks like he's like teleporting down. And in my head, I'm like, I have a perfect cape, and if I turn that fist into an actual power fist, that's a that's a goddamn custodian right there. That straight up is a custodian teleporting in, smashing the ground as he comes in from teleportation. Right. So I'm very tempted not to do that because God forbid me if I buy the custodian's model, I'm gonna cry. But like that's the stuff I love. I love coming up with these really, really stupid, cool like poses and just I don't know. That's always been my thing. It's always so. I also have guns, right? Even with the
Yeah.
guns that I own, I love customizing them. It sounds stupid, even more than just going to the range and shooting them. Just putting on different pieces, breaking them apart, looking at how they work, putting them back together, changing out even some minor springs for some better springs. Stuff like that is fun for me. I used to do that also, sadly, as a kid. I used to take apart my dad's stereo and much to his dismay. But I've always been like
I'm
that. I
sure.
love the customization. The customization always like gets to me. That's always
I,
been
I
my
looked
favorite part.
I looked it up. The model you're talking about is
What's his
Guarded
name? I was trying to
Steel
find him.
Soul. Yeah,
Oh, God,
Guarded Steel Soul.
let's
Which
hear.
okay, what I will say, if your goal or your thought is, hey, for my 182nd custode, I'm gonna get this dude, but I'm gonna change his cloak, then I'm on board because that cloak is terrible.
No, the cloak is terrible. Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, it's terrible. Absolutely, no,
it's
I'm
so
not even gonna.
dumb.
But like, see how he's like punching. Like, first of all, you have the
Yeah.
lion shoulder plate, which already custodies, like that lion
Yes.
symbology. All right, but you take that arm, right? Take that hammer out, replace that arm with like an axe or a fist just punching into the ground, and you got yourself a like you and you can also replace the head obviously with a helmet, but you got a pretty damn good model that looks like a Custodes. I'm actually trying to see if I could find the conversion that someone did. I'm pretty sure someone did a conversion, and now
Oh, I'm
probably
sure
then
they have.
now that I'm looking for it, it's not going to show up, of course, because
Of course.
of course,
I,
you go to the mechanic, my engine is running or my engine is making noises, and he goes, I don't
yep,
hear
that's
anything.
fine. I have to say what I find funny. What I think I like least about the hobby is customization. I don't like the
Really?
yeah. I now paint schemes and things like that. That's a whole nother thing. So my Marvel Crisis Protocol, I'm doing all of them in comic style, black line, everything like that. So that I'm fine with. But actually customizing models, like nah, like you made me this model. I'm happy with that model. Um, I I, to me, it doesn't bother me when they fit that look. I understand that it can bother other people. I can understand that that's an enjoyable part of the hobby for people. I was an orc player when I did play 40K, and like I modified my Stompa. Like I customized him a little bit to be able to give him like the belly gun they're supposed to have. I literally just dremeled that giant hole into him and put some tubing in there. But other than that, I'm not big on customizing. I usually, if I'm going to get into a game or get into something or a faction or whatever it may be, I'm going to choose something because like I like what they've actually done. If I don't like what they've
Yeah.
done, I don't think I'll be able to change it in a good way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why I started Custodes. I mean, I obviously modified the Custodes because I'm a fiend, but even just base Custodes look really stupid beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the
No, agreed.
yeah they're like even their what was I saying? Their contemptors, their Forge World contemptors are just oh my god. I always have an argument with someone because someone goes, oh the what is it, the purple ones, Emperor's Children, the Emperor Children one look better, and I'm like no. Custodes Contemptors with their eagle wings and everything just look amazing. Cannot compare. Cannot compare. But yeah, no, that's yeah.
All right. So we covered the good, the bad, the in between. So
In between.
what game systems do you currently play? And let's caveat this a little bit because COVID is a
Yeah.
crazy thing right
Oh,
now.
but I still play. I still play. No, I still play.
Agreed, but I think it's
Yeah.
okay if it's like, oh, I was playing right before. I mean to play. I'm still actively working on it, and I plan
Oh,
to play
exactly.
soon.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to be
Yeah.
like certain game. Maybe haven't played it in 6 months, but like, well, I'm still
Oh yeah.
working
No.
on it. That's okay.
I mean, it hasn't. Funny enough, it hasn't changed. I sold off most of my armies when I moved into a house to kind of
Mhm.
just keep the armies that I actually use. Like you were saying, mentioned Firestorm Armada.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember this. I had a massive Firestorm
Well, I
collection.
remember.
Remember, I had the Drenzi, I had the Terrakians, I had God, I had a lot actually. Jesus Christ, I made a lot of money off that selling it. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, yeah, I sold all that. The Drop Fleet Commander, Drop Zone Commander. I sold all those because I didn't have space in the apartment, and honestly, cleared space. No one was playing them. But if you're asking
that's
me what
true.
games I play, it's always well, Games Workshop is Games Workshop. They're the they're the Mexican cartels of the hobby world, supplying us the juicy drugs that we are so addicted to. I
Absolutely.
mean, I Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer 30,000, Age of Sigmar,
Mhm.
Warcry whenever I can, definitely Titanicus. Um,
That's a great game.
yeah, and so those are kind of my main. But then I also have BattleTech. BattleTech. I love BattleTech. For those who don't, for those who want to play a game that there are two types of BattleTech. There's BattleTech, the the classic, which is at most you will take 4 mechs, and that'll still take a very long time. But it's very
Yeah, well,
complex, but it's very balanced. Like you
mhm.
cannot break that game. If you try to build your own mech, you need to learn like calculus. You need to learn. It's absolutely insane how balanced that game is.
Yeah.
It's not, you cannot break it. And then you have Alpha Strike, which is I want to take 24 mechs against 24 mechs. It's much more zoomed out. Is a nice way. So
Yeah.
BattleTech, obviously, I play. And then and then Infinity, which I wanted to start. I mean, I used to play Infinity back in the day, but I just bought Infinity
There we go.
again. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's mostly GW. Mostly me. I don't play a lot of the. Oh, wait. There is a board game I play. Hold on. And Dave's laughing probably because he knows what I'm going to say.
Yeah. If you remember
Santorini.
the name, usually.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Santorini. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Santorini.
you're not too big into the board game hobby.
No,
Fair
I
enough.
never. For me, so there's a reason why. For me, tokens are my bane of existence.
Mhm.
Which is ironic because I mentioned before that I love collecting armies and buying the dice. And what I also tend to do is also buy tokens for that army. So
Mhm.
a good example is, for example, my Battlefleet Gothic army that I have. I have luckily my old Firestorm tokens that I never sold. That
Yep.
basically
I got
translate into
those.
Battlefleet Gothic. But that's as token as I'll go. You go into like something like or Super Dungeon Explorer is not bad. Super Dungeon Explorer is another fun game I play. That's a board. I love Super Dungeon. I play that actually with kids after school. I'm a teacher, but in my after school program, I used to play Super Dungeon Explorer as a campaign. They actually leveled up and stuff, which was fun for them. Um, but yeah, no
So
board games for
you're
me.
talking about like chits and things like that, and meeples. So
Yes, yes.
more of when you get into actually having
Like
pieces in the board
like
game.
terraforming Mars drives me up the wall. Like I love that game. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that game, but I would never set up and or clean up that game. I no 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 no.
That sounds not too
It's
bad.
well, that gives you a good idea. Like that's not too bad, but to
Yeah.
me, it's like it's hell on earth.
Yeah.
Um,
No, yeah,
yeah,
I can appreciate someone who or the concept of if that's not for you, then certain games
yeah.
like that can be too much or get overwhelming of having to put it all together. I do
Yeah.
understand that. Um,
Although, and then you have like the game like the Build a Castle. Oh my God, the Castle of
The
you have
Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
yes.
Yes.
Even that one, it's a great game. I love that game.
Mhm.
But just looking at the pieces, how much I'm glad you have it. Is the difference,
Yeah.
You have it. You can bring it. You can keep it in the Ziploc bags. I'll help you pick it up, but you keep it in the Ziploc bags. For me, it's
Yeah.
just like I can't. Yeah. So what
No, I
about
can
you?
understand. If you do board games, if you really get into them, so that is one part of the hobby that
Yeah.
I don't do as much as I would like to right now. But I mean, upstairs, I don't know. I got 50, 60 board games upstairs in my game
Oh,
room. Um, a lot of it is, yeah, you got to learn the rules. You got to know how it works. You got to be able to set up, break down, and explain. Now, Dan mentioned that he's a teacher, so I'm a college professor. So I talk for a living. I explain things to people for a living. So I have no problem explaining board games or anything like that. And usually I want to be the one explaining it anyway.
the key point, by the way, is that you're a college professor. For those
Yes.
that don't know, I teach middle school, and
Yeah.
I get tired of explaining.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. No, it is very different. Absolutely very, very different. Um, so game wise, up until I mean, I played Titanicus as well, but up until
Such a good game.
2 to 3 weeks ago, I didn't. I bought my Age of Sigmar army literally within the last
Yes.
several weeks. I haven't touched it since the game first came out. I played it once and I was like, oh, I don't like this game, and I stopped playing.
Wait. When did you play?
I
Was that like?
the night it released, I played it that night. I
Oh
played against our
no! So
friend
you.
Dexter. Yep. We
Oh.
I played a bunch of so the store owner of Maplewood Hobby, John, has I don't want to even guess at how many points of orc stuff. But
And
he's got
vampires.
fan
And oh
oh
god.
and oh yeah, and vampire I forgot about his vampires too. So both 40K
300
and
skeleton.
fantasy orcs. So I took a big old set of fantasy orc stuff, a variety of fantasy orc stuff, and our friend Dexter, he played something against me, and for the life of me, I don't remember what he played. He might have played some vampire stuff because that was just what was in the store, and the
This is
rules had
first
just
edition, right?
yeah, the rules had come out, and they
Oh,
had been out for like an hour. We printed it off, and Rich, the store manager, was like, "Go figure out this game. Here's a bunch of models. Go figure this stuff out, guys." And I remember we went through it, and no, original Age of Sigmar, for anyone who's not aware, the rules were literally 3 pages. There was very
And
little
also no
detail.
points.
Nope. Yeah, no
Key point
points.
here. There were no points for
So
any of the
so
models.
yeah, so there's the first thing. We throw a whole bunch of stuff on the table. We're like, maybe it's okay.
Lord have
And
mercy.
when you come from a gaming background, if you were a brand new player to a game, you will take a game at face value and you will take a rule set at face value because you do not know differently or do not know better or you don't know the alternative, whichever way to think about it. We were coming from, so I had played Warhammer Fantasy, I had played 40K, I'd played a bunch of different games. So when you hand me a 3 page rule set, and up until that in my entire life, I've never been able to shoot in combat or into combat or be in combat and shoot. And I suddenly don't see anything related, just as shooting, like, hey, pick a target, make sure they're in range, go ahead and fire. I remember we were just like, so I'm in combat with you here. Can I shoot those guys over there?
Into
Can I do
combat.
this? Yeah, and the answer to everything was yes. You could do essentially whatever you want. It was a stopgap, and it was not a great stopgap because you could literally do just about anything. And if Age of Sigmar was this sort of, we need to tie over the people who play fantasy until we come up with an actual system in Age of Sigmar. There's some other reasons they did it. Obviously, they want to be able to copyright their stuff better and all that kind of things. And fantasy had become a behemoth and impossible to get into. You were not getting new people into fantasy because
No, you were not.
you
I
can't
love fantasy, and it was just not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna. That fantasy had, as Dave said, it was just a bloat. It's a great game. Don't get me wrong, but just a normal. Okay, so like I said, I played ogres, which are your big boy,
Mhm.
40 mil bases ogres,
Mhm.
and even in a normal. What 2,500 point was the normal, right? Yeah, in a normal 2,500 point tournament list of ogres, I still had what? Hold on, let me see here. 9, 6, 6, 3, 3. So that's why it's 12. 18, another 9. I still had like 30, 40 models on the table, which is a lot for an ogre army. And then even for like orcs, I mean, Dave, how many? Oh, you played. What did you play in fantasy? I know you played
In
ogres.
fantasy, so I had ogres for a bit, and then I played demons.
How
And
many
in
demons
demons,
would you take in the 2K list?
oh, I'm not even sure. So a good unit. So this is 8th edition fantasy. Earlier editions were a little different, but in 8th edition fantasy, you want to bring like a unit of bloodletters. Unit bloodletters, you're probably going to want at least 20 of them bad boys in a unit. There's one unit. So if you play, lo and behold, if you play Skaven, you're going to have more models in a unit that essentially costs almost no points than anyone else has in their whole army.
3 point
It
Skaven slaves.
yep. It, and the other big problem, and it's exactly as you said, in the standard 2,500 point game, 40K you can learn in 500 points. It's not exactly the same. It's not as great, but I can teach you 40K in 500 points. We can play some games. You can learn. Hey, you'll get to 750. We can play some more stuff. We can work our way up. You can't start fantasy, I would say, less than probably 1,500 points for
I'd
it
say
to
that's
feel.
even pushing it. Believe it or not. Yeah, I'd say that's pushing it.
Yeah, it probably is. Anything less than that, it's not going to be a fantasy. You're going to have like you're going to have like 2 units, and it won't have any feel of the game. Small 40K feels like 40K on a budget. Small fantasy doesn't feel like the same game.
It feels bad. It's just it doesn't feel
Yes.
great.
No, it plays terribly. It absolutely did.
But yeah,
So
no, you
you
played
need
Sigmar first edition. Oh,
Yeah.
my
So,
lord.
so you would need tons of models and stuff like that. So I understand they held over, but they
Yeah,
held over with no information. It was very rough. So I didn't touch Sigmar
yeah.
for. I played like another game or two after that, but I waited years again. Now I picked it up and it's cool. I'm hoping this weekend to maybe get some games in of it, try some things out.
I will say, as someone who plays
Mhm.
Sigmar, the newest rule set is pretty amazing. What I was hoping for, oh boy, I hope no one 30K listens to this. I'm gonna get like death threats at my house. So the one thing I like about 40K, there's a criticism and there's a positive here. So the one thing I love about 40K is the secondary objectives. Now
Agreed.
that being said, this I hate the fact that they're releasing specific secondary objectives for certain armies. right? Because then it kind of army gates the secondary objectives.
Yep.
And if you make some easier to get than others, then it's like, oh well, wow, you got 15 points, and I'm working for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It also makes a gap in releasing the army. Oh, you get these easy ones, but I'm still using the normal ones. So anyway, that's not. But I do like the idea of secondary objectives, and that's the thing I like about Titanic as well. It's not just I sit on objective and wait till the end of the game to see who wins. The game is always happening. You're always scoring every turn, and if you have, I think how many secondaries are there? There's 18 secondaries, 20. Let's say 20. I'm going to round up. Let's say there's 20 secondaries.
Let's do it at least.
You only take 3 of them. Yeah, you only take 3 of them, and my opponent takes 3. So the combinations, the variations you're going to have, I can take a completely different set of secondaries with a completely different army and then you are probably used to secondaries, but you might look at my army and say, no, actually it's easier to take this secondary. So you might even switch. So I love that.
Yeah.
Sigmar in their new edition started doing that with their secondaries. Now, obviously, they're not the other problem with 40k secondaries is that they go up to 100 points, and that's kind of freaking annoying. I hate that note. But Sigmar, it doesn't go up to that. You score. I think it's between and at maximum 2 points for a secondary, or maybe I think it's 3 points for a secondary. But you'll score multiple things. So like you'll score an objective. Oh, you have an objective 1 point. You have 2 objectives, 2 points. You have more than your opponent, 3 points. Oh, you scored your secondary this turn, 2 points. That's a 5-point swing right there, and that's good. 5 points per turn is fine. When you get to like 40k, it's like, oh, there's 27 points, 33. It's too much.
It's a low
below 10
score
per
game.
year. Yeah, it's a low scoring game, but they got that secondaries in there. So now you have secondaries that you can choose, and not only that, not only do you have secondaries you can choose, your army has its own basic secondary before the game even starts, right? Which is, I think, awesome. And I wish they would do this for 30k. I love showing people 30k, and I know people love 40k because it's a little easier to get into because they got rid of weapon skill and strength. But 30k does have that nostalgic, it does have that coolness value, right? But the problem with 30k is the missions are 7th edition, which is fight each other. Oh, is it turn 6? Okay, see who's on the objective. Whoever has more objectives wins. And then there's some secondaries, but they're the old secondaries. So you get 1 point for the warlord. Meanwhile, I get 5 points for standing on an objective. So it's like, oh, okay.
You play a lot of game for a very short outcome at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I will let you know that I know you're going to start playing now with more Sigmar, but Sigmar, in my opinion, is a much, much, much better game than it was when it first came out. Like, even first edition, second edition, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is much better just by looking at it, reading through the rules a few times. It has a good feel, and when I think about 40k, I wish I cared about 40k the way I want to care about it, and I do not. And to me, it's a shame that I do not, because I would like to.
Is that you wish you could play it?
Yeah, I wish I cared to play it. I wish it looked entertaining.
Yeah.
It does not. The lore is great. Everything about it is great, except the game itself.
So here's the thing. I love the game of 40. Okay, so if I had to place orders of like what games I love the most, it's Titanic is at the top. Titanic just kind of solves everything for me. It's got the alternative movement, which God, I love alternating movement. Yeah. Please, games, please.
Alternate activations is key.
If someone randomly listens to us, game developers, please alternating movement, please. It's just so much better. Anyway, so it's got alternate movement, it's got secondary objectives, it's got a card deck which you can randomize the battlefield, which is awesome, right? Completely throws your plans. Oh, I got this one-shot army bullshit, alpha strike nonsense, and then all of a sudden the card is we use the FFG way. I think you said it was a Star Wars Armada way of choosing the planet.
Star Wars,
right?
Legion, the way Legion does it. So what you do is you lay out the cards, and you essentially lay them out in a grid, and then each player in an order you determine gets to remove or essentially flip a card on the furthest left or choose not to. You do that a total of twice per player. Whatever is left in the leftmost spot is what you actually play. So if you start with a battlefield and you're like, I can't have that battlefield, you could use one of your attempts to flip it.
And someone who takes an Alpha Strike army can be like, oh, you take an Alpha Strike army? Okay, we're playing on a fire planet. enjoy your first turn getting all in the red zone and blowing yourself up. It gives you that tactical advantage, not actually an advantage, but it gives you that ability to kind of fight cheese a little fair.
Yeah. It varies
And
the game
then
up, which is nice.
yeah, and then second, of course, is 30K. I do love 30K. God, I freaking love 30K. And I think it's more the community that I love than the actual game. Because the community is small enough that if someone's an asshole, like they are known and they get kind of like banned from events. So everyone is exceptionally nice to each other.
Yeah.
Scary though, even in tournaments. There's really no tournaments for 30K, but there's a lot of events for 30K, and people are just exceptionally crazily friendly. Because I bought this expensive Forge World army. So did you. It's hey, let's have fun. And then it
There's
goes Sigmar, and then fourth is 40K. I love 40K, but it's not. The problem with 40K, and this is someone who plays a lot, is that when they release these new codexes are miles above power levels of what the old armies were.
Mhm.
So they released Space Marines, they've released Dark Eldar, they've released, oh my god, the Mechanicus, which that's in its own tier, by the way. I should point out, Mechanicus is there's it's not even miles above. It's its own different stratosphere. It's a different planet in levels of power. But these new books that they release, the problem is that there's so much of a power differential between, let's say, my book, which is Custodes in 8th edition, and the Sisters of Battle, which is a new book in 9th edition. The power differential is massive. So it kind of feels bad when you're trying to play not even a tournament, just a normal game, and I bring my tournament heavy list, and you're just bringing a fluffy Sisters of Battle list, and I'm like struggling against your worst units. It's a feel bad situation, and it
it
doesn't feel great. And
this turned it's turned
yeah, go ahead.
itself into very much a game where you have to have that. If it's not a tournament, you have to have that discussion with your opponent of what kind of game are we going to play tonight.
Yes, yes. Which is what, funny enough, if you it was first edition. That's for what first edition Sigmar was.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
that was when it didn't have points. Oh, what type of game are we having fun? Are we gonna try to beat each? And as much as I don't mind talking to my opponent about that, it's still. Listen, I'm not
When you
asking for
show
a
up,
balance. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
when you're showing up on hobby night and you only got so much time to play, and maybe we didn't prearrange a whole bunch of stuff. There's nothing wrong with having that discussion, but you want that discussion to
Yeah,
be real fast. You don't want to have to necessarily rebuild your list. You want to be able to say like, "Hey,
yeah, exactly.
I'm bringing this stuff, and it'll be fine. It'll
I
feel
mean,
fine."
yeah, I'm not asking for BattleTech levels of balance. Again, BattleTech. If you want to look at a balanced game, you look at BattleTech. It's
Yeah.
just the point values are in the thousands, ladies and gentlemen. A mech can change one part of it, and it'll go from 17 or 7,400 BV, which is their points, to now all of a sudden 5,300. Like the math in it is insane. I'm not asking for a balanced game like BattleTech because it's hard. It's hard to balance a game, especially when you have the amount of races that GW has.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
it's just you kind of hit the nail on the head. I don't want to go to a game night and be like, oh, I guess we're playing a tournament game. Well, the list I brought is not going to win a damn thing.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I brought a tournament list. You only brought your favorite models. Well, now I feel like a jerk for pounding you into the dirt because
Yeah.
even me rolling poorly means I'm still going to beat you senselessly. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that I don't like that. It's not great. That's why, I mean, again, I favor more to 30K. It doesn't mean that 30K doesn't have janky lists. Again, every game you can build jank. You can go
Yeah.
cheesy. But again, because the community in 30K is I shouldn't say so small, there are thousands of people, but because the 30K, I don't know, it's just weird. It's a smaller hobby, and because it's a smaller hobby, people look out for each other more. They want people to join their hobby. I don't know if that
No,
makes any sense.
no, it absolutely
Uh,
makes sense. I
yeah,
mean, if in 40K terms, you don't have to worry about that as much because you go to any hobby shop that plays a miniature game, and I guarantee you they're playing 40K, and I guarantee you can probably
yeah,
find 10 people or whatever it may be.
yeah.
Some shops a
Oh
lot
yeah,
more, but you can find people. If you're playing some really niche game, or at least for your area, it's a niche game, if you need people to get into the game, you got to be nice. You got to really be welcoming. You got to make them feel like this is the best experience they're going to have. So yeah, I think you absolutely have to do that. And I could see why in
Yeah.
30K with the money some of these people are putting into their armies and the desire to play it.
Yep.
If there's only a few people, if we're
You
not going
can't
to be
afford to
friends and
be.
play this,
Yeah.
yeah, we can't afford to
You
be
can't
mean.
afford to be a jerk.
No,
I'll put
why not?
a personal story. There is, I'm not going to say the name obviously, but there is someone well known, and this is the funny part. It's not even a joke. There is a 30K player that I
Mm.
know of, and it's not just I know of. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York, the 30K communities know of this person, and he is literally just not invited to their events. Think about that for a second. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, all different states, completely different communities, know of this one person because of what he did. I think it's not what he did, but the way he acted at two events. Two events.
Yeah.
And he's essentially banned because that's the level of community. It's just it's a weird and I mean, if I had to choose a game I wish to play,
Yeah.
okay. And I
Well,
know I
I'll
sold it
give you
off.
a moment to think about that. While you're thinking
Oh,
about this, so I'll
I
mention a little
know.
bit of what I do.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, so I guess I do manage a Sigmar. I play a lot of other random games. So I play Marvel Crisis Protocol as well. Um, one of the big games I played a lot lately is A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game. I think through COVID/quarantine, I was playing a minimum of 1 to 2 games of it a week. So I got like a couple, like 100 games now under my belt of that. Absolutely love the game. I don't get to play it very much in person because there's not a great community right now, although they're working on it. Some areas are working on it. And then just like I said, Infinity, a lot of small things or other things. I try now to avoid suddenly getting interested in new things because I already have too many I'm doing. Like I have X-Wing stuff. I haven't played it in a bit, but hey, I talked to this guys the other week. Maybe I go back out and play some X-Wing. You know.
Yeah.
So what do you wish you were playing? Is there a game that you
Oh yeah.
currently are
Okay.
not
So
playing that you want to?
my absolute favorite type of game, and
Yeah.
this is a problem because there's no company makes this anymore. We
Mm.
play it in the store because I love with an undying passion space games. There's something about space naval games, like space. I should say space naval games, but like space games that act like naval games that
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoy. Sure, they're stupidly slow sometimes, but it's something about big ships launching
Mm.
torpedoes, and I don't know why. I don't know why, but that's just my favorite. So I I wish that Firestorm Armada never fell. And again, that's a conversation for another time.
Agreed.
I wish Firestorm Armada was. I love Drop Fleet Commander. It's not a space game. And let me put it. It's more of a. It's a drop fleet game. You drop troops on a planet, and you kill each other, but you also need to drop. So it's more of a tactical game. But the game I'm loving right now is Battlefleet Gothic, and I wish I could play it
Mhm.
more, and I wish more people because so for those who don't know, Battlefleet Gothic is Warhammer 40,000 in space. And again, it was written by Andy Chambers, the man, the myth, the legend. And with Battlefleet Gothic, sure, you have your ships in space, but some of the tokens that you use is, for example, your torpedoes. Your torpedoes aren't, shots that just disappear after you roll the dice. Torpedoes are something you actually have to put on the board, and they travel until they leave the board. So you can shoot a salvo of 12 torpedoes, let's say 12 torpedoes in waves of two. So that's
Mhm.
6 two-shot torpedoes that are now flying through the board, right? And you
Yep.
could space them out any which way you want, but they will always travel their 20 centimeters every single turn.
Mhm.
So it's like acting like an actual naval torpedo. It's just that to me is so stupid cool to see that across the board. Um, and I
I,
wish
I,
I could play that more.
the video game, I think, had probably a lot of people wishing that the game existed
Yes,
currently. Now
yes, I
there's a group
100%
of
agree.
people. There's a group of people who took the rules. Um, Overall, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel that they changed
Yes.
the rules when they did it
Okay,
much,
so I
but
know
they
this is
kind
what
of
I had
put
to
it together
research.
nicely. Mhm.
Yes. So what Dave is talking about is so there's two types of rule sets for Battlefleet,
Mhm.
and there's always contention between the two rule sets, which I always find funny. People fight over these all the time. So there's Battlefleet Remastered. Battlefleet
Mhm.
Remastered is quite literally Battlefleet Gothic with all the errata, all the facts put into it, not touching the ships at all, but changing the points around to be more balanced.
Is that what we
What Dave is
play?
no. So we play
Okay.
Battlefleet XR. Battlefleet
Okay.
XR is exactly the same thing. It's the rule set is the same. I mean, there's I swear to God, there's two differences, and I can even tell you that the two differences are it allows you to stack the ordnance, remaster does
Mhm.
not, and it allows you to board when you're on certain orders. Right
Okay.
in remastered, you're not allowed to board when you're on any orders whatsoever. In
Oh.
XR, you're allowed to board. I shouldn't say board. Lightning strike, right? I know
Mhm.
you're Necrons. You don't lightning strike, but you can lightning strike
No, we did not.
if
Oh no,
you're
we lightning
only.
strike is essentially
Oh,
all
you
we
know,
do.
okay.
We
Okay.
don't.
So you can if you're on lock on orders, or if you're on. There was one more, but that's it. So it just opens up a little bit more of a. It opens up more of a ability to lightning strike. You're not too limited, but the major
Mhm.
reason we play XR, the major difference between that and remastered, is that it took all the armies that well, balanced it just like remastered did, but it took
Yeah.
armies and it expanded them. So, for example, Dark Eldar had 2 ships. That
That
was
was
it.
it.
That was it. I'm not actually joking
Nothing.
about it. There was 2 ships, and it's not even
Oh my
they
god.
were. It wasn't a capital. It wasn't a battleship and a cruiser. It was a cruiser and a frigate, and they couldn't ally with Eldar either. So that was your Dark Eldar list.
So they
Enjoy
were
playing.
essentially unplayable.
No, they were playable. They were oh my god, they were amazing ships. Um,
Okay. So they were good
but
ships, but it would be you have a bunch of one and a bunch of the other. Okay.
another, it's not fun. And what
No,
XR did
that's
is
not
it
fun.
expanded the roster. It took the theme of Dark Eldar, I should say. It took the theme of Dark Eldar and expanded it to I think 10 or 12 ships, which is what most armies have. I mean, Imperial
Mhm.
Guard obviously have a bajillion, but yeah, it expanded to like 10 or 12 ships, and they balanced them, gave them the appropriate points. But yeah, that's what they did. They expanded even Necrons. Necrons originally, I know you play Necrons, so
Yes.
your Necrons only had. Hold on, give me a second. I'm trying to think of the original one, two, three, so 6 ships. That's it. You
They
only had
don't have
six
any
ships.
more now.
No, they have like eight
A
or
few more.
nine, a few more, but they only had 6 ships. And,
Yeah.
and, and if you're missing that version of a ship, oh, sucks for you, bro. Sorry.
Mhm.
And so this is where, of course, people argue because some people go, "Oh, that's just not modernizing. What's the word I'm looking for? That's just generalizing the race." Is that what they say? The argument is usually, "Oh, Dark Eldar should only have 2 ships. If you give them more, it's going to generalize it, right? So it's gonna make them,
Maybe like a watering down.
yeah, watering down essentially." But
Okay.
then if you just read the rules, you realize that they have the same rules as Dark Eldar, just that now they have a capital ship option or a battleship option. You know what I mean? It's still a
Yeah.
light ship, it's still armed with paper, but you can design a different ship. It just you you don't just have 2 sets of models on the board. You can have up to 8 different sets of models. It looks better.
It
You know
it
what I
it
mean?
it
Yeah.
feels like a game. You
If
having
yes,
two
yes.
options and me having 6, 7, 8, or depending on faction, that doesn't feel like a game. That doesn't feel
Yeah, it
balanced,
doesn't feel
and
great.
it's a feel bad. At the end
It
of the
is.
day.
Also, I also should point out that they added also, like, for example, as you play Space Marines,
Mhm.
Space Marines only had Lord have mercy. Space Marines had 5 options. You had your battle barge, you had your strike cruiser, and by the way, you couldn't customize them either. Bit back, I shouldn't say that. You could customize them when the FAQ came out, but you had your battle barge, strike cruiser, and 3 sets of frigates. And they were like, "That's not right," because in the fluff, Space Marines sometimes use Imperial vessels, right? So they
Mhm.
open, but in the fluff, for people before I go to fluff, Space Marines are not allowed Nova cannons or lances because of the
Yeah.
Horus heresy. They
Mhm.
they lost that privilege. So what the XR did was it took all the ships that were non-Nova cannon, non-lances, they added them to the Space Marine roster, and you have to pay
Okay.
extra points for them because now you're filling them with Space Marines instead of normal guard. But you're allowed to take those ships in certain quantities. So now
Okay.
you have access to these. So what's really cool, and I'm shouting out another company here, Soulforge Studios. What's really cool if you like look at Soulforge Studios, right? They have 3D printing services for Battlefleet Gothic. You can take the 3D model of the Imperial vessel, but then you could stick a Space Marine prow on it. You know, so now you have
Yeah.
a completely, and it's legal. That would be legal. You know what I mean? and it
Mm.
technically would also be WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, and that's really cool. That's what XR did. And again, some people don't like the fact that they modified the rules or they added Dark Elder. But to me, listen, if I want to show someone Battlefleet Gothic, which is hard to do because there are no models, and I want to play more of it, right? That's the question. I want to play more of it. And I'm trying to show someone Battlefleet Gothic. I'm not going to be like, oh, you really like Dark Eldar? Here are your 2 ships. Enjoy. Build a list with this. That's dumb. I'm sorry. That's stupid. That's not how
Nothing
you
to be sorry about. Yeah,
yeah,
no one's gonna get excited about
yeah.
that.
No one's gonna get excited. And I think one of our friends, Brian, actually did Dark Eldar, and he was
Yep.
even like, wow, okay, I actually remember not having choices. This is pretty cool. That's the point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I actually no, I don't get why people get so bent out of shape about it because it's a game that hasn't been supported in I don't even know how long. It was not a game when I started in the hobby, at that point. So this game has been defunct for so long. People found a way to both keep it alive, keep it active. Their Discord servers is for the
Active. I'm
XR
part of the
one is
Discord.
it's very active. They're keeping this game alive, and if you like it, they're updating it. There's very few games that you can look back, say 10 years. Don't even go further than that. Go 10 years and say that it is a well thought out, well put together, without problems rule set game. Most games do not fit that because game design, game theory improves and changes. What works well changes and alters over time.
Hopefully.
So they'll maybe bring it back at some point. But so you mentioned that because you want to play a space battle game. I am very much the same. The game I wish I was playing more of was Star Wars Armada. But
Yeah.
when AMG, when they took over the Star Wars license, they even said, yeah, Armada, it's on hiatus. Like, we're not saying we'll never do anything, but we're not currently making anything for it. And a lot of that is because they don't want to dip into legacies for their information, probably because Disney won't let them, or maybe they don't want to.
Probably Disney. Well, let's be honest.
I'm sure a good bit of that, but if you really think in Star Wars, if you're not going to go to Legacy's old canon, there's not a lot of capital ships.
No, there's not.
The
You
game
have to
has
dip
them.
into. So for those of you who, for those people who might not know, Legacies is basically a defunct canon of Star Wars.
Yep.
When Disney took over and redid Star Wars, I shouldn't say redid, they added more to Star Wars. They took a lot of the books which were written, about Star Wars.
Everything.
Yeah, they took everything and kind of just said, nope, we're rewriting it. Which sucks because those books were rich with new ships, new weapons, new everything. And you look at like the new material. Yeah, it was good. It was very. I have oh my god, I still have. I don't know if you know, they're like the compendiums for Star Wars.
Oh
like, here are the planets of Star Wars. Here are the weapons of Star Wars. I have one for ships, and it's like a 300-page. Yeah, exactly. It's like a 300-page book of just drawings of different types of ships. It's insanity. How many well, I shouldn't say capital, but frigate-sized and higher ships there were. And then you look at the new ships, and there's Star Destroyers, and bigger Star Destroyers.
Yeah.
And bigger Star Destroyers.
Imperial one. The Imperial, you got interdictors. I mean, for Rebels and Imperials, there is a good mix of ships. Absolutely. They just, a couple years ago, came out with Clone Wars era stuff. So they did
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, the Republic Separatists and stuff like that. And they each got a starter box and like a ship or two. That was it. And then, unfortunately they're like, yeah, it's defunct now. It's we'll maybe get to it. So they haven't killed the game, but essentially they said, like, we're going to support you with tournaments and all, but we're not putting you out any new product. If you don't have new product, how are you going to keep a game going? So
yeah, you don't.
Meanwhile, that's probably, not going to lie, it's probably the next stuff that I'm selling, just because I haven't played in a while. The Red Seal Gaming near us, and I forget where their new store is. I'll make sure to shout them out next time because it's a great place. Some people there play, and I know could get some games in, but I'm like, you know what? Realistically, it's probably
times we're going to go there.
Yeah. I mean, I could go there. It's not too much that problem. It's more of, how long until it dwindles? how long until there's maybe less people playing? And I already have a bunch of games. I already honestly have too many games right now. The last thing I need is something different to play. I would like
Yeah.
to. It would be great. But just can't do it. I can't. All right, we've been going for a bit, so it probably feels
Apparently, yeah.
yeah, feels like it's probably good.
I'm always
Matt,
surprised how
place
long
for
we
us to end.
talk.
I know. With this, I had to say I was. I didn't. So I just wrote down a few questions in our show notes to be able to kind of get this part going, and apparently that's all we needed.
Apparently.
So thank you anyone who does listen. Um, if you have any questions, anything like that, good spot for that is you can always reach out to the email. It's terrainkickersnj@gmail.com. If you found us on one of the different podcasting sources, we're working on getting onto all the different ones, iTunes, Google, all of that. If you like anything you hear, please do leave a review, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Everything, any of that just helps other people to find us. I think for next episode, we're looking at. We're still debating whether we're going to see if it's going to be weekly, every other weekly. The concept of weekly is nice, but the concept of having time weekly is not. But I think next episode we'll go through a little bit. You had mentioned last time to talk about 3D printing and
I
things
think.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're going to
Monster
talk
3D
about
printing.
that. I think that's a good topic. I think we'll go through 3D printing, what it means for both the hobby, what it means for individuals, and what it means for even, like you said, for Battlefield Gothic kind of concepts of reviving
Yeah.
defunct games, maybe showing that interest all over again.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah. I'm Dave. That's Dan. And, see everyone around and get to painting.